Hi everyone, my name is Elaine, and today I'm going to be talking about what I feel is the best defensive gear on Unison League. I'm only going to be talking about maxed out gear, things in their UR form, and gear that I feel is most useful in the different situations you might find yourself in as opposed to every gear type and skill available in the game. This is mainly in the interest of time. I'm going to start off with null gear. Null gear is a type of gear that you can get as a reward by exchanging the legend medals you get from ranked guild battles. There are two types of null gear. The first comes with a null magic damage XL skill, which has a chance to nullify magic damage taken. This is the Voluta line, which consists of Voluta's armored outfit and Voluta's crowned helmet. The second has a null physical damage XL skill. This is the Ignis Line, which consists of Ignis's blessed armor and Ignis's blessed mask once they have been reforged into their UR form. I like this gear a lot because of its null ability. I find it to be very versatile. It is useful in both PvE and PvP situations. However, I feel as though it's more useful in PvP settings such as Guild Battle and Coliseum. This is because I feel that players hit harder than the average monster, especially if they work as a team to take you down. So having gear like this can be extremely helpful. I think it's also amazing when you consider situations where a disadvantaged class is facing a class that has an advantage over it. For example, mages are known for one-shotting soldiers with their abilities like Starburst and Siphon. Part of this stems from the fact that soldiers tend to have lower magical defense than physical because of their emphasis on armor and helmet gear. And part of this stems from the fact that mages have anti-soldier passives, which increases the ability power for physical and magical attack abilities against soldiers. Equipping this gear provides soldiers with a chance to survive these attacks, which often wreck them. I believe that if the null gear is equipped in one's first slot, the one all the way to the left, aka the main slot, there's a 50% chance that the skill will go off and save the soldier. But please don't quote me on that percentage and feel free to correct me down below in the comments so everyone knows for sure. The con for this gear is that they are older pieces of gear. Their stats are much lower than fully infused 35 cost gear pieces of gear that came out later, and even some lower cost fully infused pieces of gear. And until recently, when 35 cost gear became more plentiful, they were a pain to infuse since you basically had to save up recycle metals to exchange for a Blue Knight series ticket once a month and use that gear to infuse it, a process which caused it to take several months to fully infuse a single piece of null gear. The second type of gear I'm going to talk about is what I'm going to refer to as the God's Blessing line. These gear pieces are those you receive as a reward from ordeal quests, such as the Light and Dark quests, or by exchanging the medals you receive from those quests. The original line consisted of things like the Dark Deity outfit and Amaterasu's garb, and until recently maxed out at 26 cost. Now they can be awakened to 37 cost gear. The second line the devs released consists of gear like the Divine Deity hat and Divine Deity robes and maxes out at 31 cost. Each piece of gear has a skill with a sort of basic ability and then a blessing if you equip all the gear pieces in that particular set in your main gear slots. For example, you unlock Twilight's Blessing by equipping the Silver Crescent staff, Silver Crescent headdress, and Dark Deity outfit. To expand on this example, which is the next line, the Dark Deity dress has a chance to greatly increase magic damage when using an ability. If you equip the whole set and unlock the blessing, you gain a passive which increases your magical attack by 10%, a constant effect during battle. The second set, which includes things like the Divine Deity hat, is essentially the Nyx gear's light counterpart. It has the same skill, but increases one's magical attack by 20% during battle when all of the gear in that line is equipped. Now that you've gotten the basic idea, I want to share why I like this gear. First, it's a good way to gain elemental gear, which can be helpful in certain situations like Mobius when there's a specific elemental advantage each round. Second, it's easily accessible to players and fairly easy to infuse. The 26 cost and 31 cost are outdated stat-wise since they are older pieces of gear, but they make up for it with their blessings, which is an amazing boost to your stats no matter which you equip. Or in the case of Amaterasu's gear set, for example, a 10% increase to status ailment resistance. Trying to awaken the older gear can be a bit of a challenge, however, which may keep it out of reach of newer players. I say these mainly because they need special items to awaken. But this is something to work toward and can definitely be used to update one's gear over time. There's also Xenogear, which you get by exchanging Granvia's shield crest. Xenogear consists of things such as the Xenosuit Exceed and can take a fair amount of time to unlock because of all the items you need to awaken it. Furthermore, I don't feel as though its skill or that of its clothing counterpart, the Xenodress Exceed, is particularly useful even in guild battle situations, given how few times monsters are actually thrown. The Xenosuit Exceed skill is a defensive awakened skill which tremendously reduces the ability power of unison attacks and Great Spirit unison attacks of all elements received by certain percentage. This effect activates only when playing as a soldier or lancer and is continuous regardless of the slot it's in. The Xenodress does this for clerics, mages, and archers. Personally, I'd rather use something with a skill that isn't so specific to a certain situation, which only comes up periodically in PvP and does not come up at all in PvE. Just awaken your monsters to gain the same effect. Next up are the art skills, which you can get from spawns. These gear pieces include things like the Garb of Crimson Petals, which has the Art of Physical Damage Down XL skill, which has a chance to massively reduce physical damage taken and fill your Unison gauge by 5. I actually prefer this to skills like physical damage down XXL, although it's a tremendous reduction as opposed to massive, because of the second part of the skill, chance to raise Unison gauge by 5. This is because of its use in guild battle, especially since monsters often determine who wins guild battles. It's not always as helpful in PvE situations since teams often don't get the chance to Unison or even need to Unison unless they're running a harder quest or something like Mobius. Similar skills are the Unison gauge fill, so original, I know, which appears on Cronus' armored outfit and has a chance to fill the Unison gauge by 5 when physical or magic damage is taken. This gear you get from exchanging Hollow Metals and is a little outdated stat-wise, similar to the Nulls. Another classic is Reflection Gear, which you can get from spawns like all the other gear types I'm going to discuss after this. An example of the Reflection skill would be found on the Armor of the Snow, whose skill is Magical Reflection XXL, which has a chance to tremendously reduce magic damage taken and reflect the reduced damage back at your attacker. It can be countered by skills found on other defensive gear pieces. It's mainly useful in PvP settings. Gear such as the Entangling Beret, Firebrand, which has the Fatal Testament XXL skill, which has a chance to increase physical and magical damage when using an ability, can also be very helpful for DPS characters in every situation they may find themselves in. It's their job to deal damage swiftly, so anything that helps them increase their damage output is useful. For obvious reasons, this gear is basically useless for people who play support clerics and for anyone with a strong support build who isn't dealing damage. Next up are defense constants, any of them. Examples include the Ice Twin Bloom ceremonial clothing, whose ability is Constant Heal Up XL, whose skill is Other Constant Effect skill, which massively increases the amount of HP recovered during a battle, including from continuous healing effects and life drain. And the Swar Uniform Eternal, which has the Reflection Reduction XL skill, or Other Defense Constant Effect skill, which massively reduces the reflected damage taken. Constant effect during battle. You mentioned this already, skill. Redundant much? It reduces by 50% at skill level 5. Some of these gear pieces have pretty good skills, like the Swar Uniform, assuming you're attacking people with Reflect gear, so don't be a support cleric, I guess. The Twin Bloom skill isn't quite as helpful. However, I don't like equipping these gear pieces because of the 2-piece rule. Unless you're constantly checking and or adjusting your gear, you may wind up equipping too many of these pieces and wind up with basically nothing instead of something useful. The last gear type I'm going to talk about is my least favorite and is only really useful in call situations which have short matches. These gear pieces are those with defensive opening skills. An example would be the Noir Dress Neo, whose skill is Reflect Damage XXL. As I mentioned previously, this is a defensive opening skill, which reflects 16% of damage taken in the first 25 seconds of a battle. The level bonus is that the effect is boosted by 1% for each increase in skill level. These gear pieces have a wide range of abilities. They can cast Ward on your character or even Resurrection for a short period. I feel like these are the best of the lot, and they can also heal you in a way similar to World Tree's Blessing. But like I said, they're really only useful in Call-O because of the fact that their effects wear off over time. So if you can, I would suggest you only equip the gear in that sort of situation. With all of that being said, a gear piece's skill isn't as important as their elemental type in certain PvE situations, such as when you're running harder quests or Mobius especially. In these situations, there's typically an elemental advantage. I say typically only because there isn't always in event quests, which means you'll probably need to equip that elemental advantage in order to survive or fare well. So if the Mobius event features fire monsters, you're going to want to equip lots of water gear to keep yourself safe. And I know this isn't a combat video, but to deal more damage as well. Ideally, you'll be able to wear non-opening skill gear so that the gear skill helps you throughout the length of the quest or Mobius, which can take an extremely long time to complete. I know Mobius runs can last several hours if you're a veteran, but any elemental advantage gear you can equip is helpful, and is often why you'll hear veteran players tell you to hoard this kind of gear even if it's a low cost and swap it out as you get higher cost gear with the same elemental advantage. And there you have it, my guide to Unison League's defensive gear. I hope you found my guide helpful and feel better equipped to play Unison League. If you feel I missed anything or have any questions, please leave a comment down below. I'm always happy to help and will do my best to answer. And if you like what you saw here today, please smash that like button until it's blue, subscribe, ring that bell so you know what's up, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Happy gaming!
Thank you.